gringo performing gay wedding, and in Barrio, I saw the headline in the newspaper already. I thought that was it, but then no, I showed up and go inside to greet the two who asked me to do their wedding, and one of them is now a woman. Not surgically, but was in an alternate persona. Was wearing a bridal gown, a veil, makeup. She looked pretty good, actually. I did not see that coming. But I do not welch on my promises, and they're in the front yard, they're in the barrio for all to see with people driving by. I stood there performing a wedding for Tina and Jose. I was not the only one there. Moms, dads, brothers, sisters, friends were there. Tina's mascara began to run the moment that she walked down the aisle. Their hands literally shook as they exchanged rings. That's a real wedding. Because you see, love, real love, has courage. Not the liquid kind that I experienced in that location years before. Love has real courage because it takes risks. And why does love take a risk? Because it cannot not take a risk. Because love demands that you put yourself out there. I spoke of intimacy last week. That's what it's about. To hold back would hurt more than to engage. Two men, unable to get married, needed a wedding. Their love needed to be acknowledged. I never saw such such bravery at a wedding before or since. Let's imagine for a moment how difficult it is to live in a society that already reviles you, and then to have a ceremony that you know offends everybody around you, and then to have one of them dress as a woman. It's almost as though you're daring them to hate you. Were they doing it to dare society? No! That was the part that surprised me. Every, quote, gay wedding I have done has been to become part of the society that rejects them and demand to become like us. Real marriage is scary. It's risky. It's uncertain. But for some, not getting married in some way is even a greater risk. I've been to very few weddings for people I knew were more married than Tina and Jose. And now the funeral. I use the term symbolically. Lisa came to me alone. She is a woman of color. She's a lesbian whose relationship with another woman had ended. They had a, quote, wedding years before, and like so many other, shall we say, straight couples, it didn't work out. But you know, when you're legally married and it doesn't work out, you get the ritual called divorce court, which, by the way, is a lot longer and a lot more painful than the part you do with me up front. If someone would give me divorce powers, I could make a lot of money. But she wanted something. She wanted to do something that would mark the end of her marriage, because there was no law. There was no ritual divorce system for her. So she came to me and asked, is there something I can do? And I said, I've never done this before. And I thought very hard, and we worked together, and we crafted a ceremony of divorce. You think that's odd. I thought it was odd, but it felt so appropriate for her. Sadly, her spouse would not be there. That's the problem with divorce. But her family and friends did, and in a little chapel space, I formally requested that she take the ring off her finger and put it in my hand, and put her hand on top of the ring, and then I put my hand on top of her hand like this. And I gave the hand and the ring a blessing, that they may go their ways in peace and find new love in the days to come. It was a funeral for a marriage. One of the most responsible acts I've ever performed. a very adult act. Dare I even say a loving act, as someone who acknowledges a relationship once close was no longer there and wants to make a formal, public, responsible accounting. How many legal divorces have a moment like that, where they each look at each other and say, "Peace be unto you, blessings be upon you." And yet here I was with a woman who could not get married, being asked to help her take leave of a relationship spiritually, morally, emotionally. She showed me a hole in our spiritual culture that recognizes the celebration part but not the sorrow part of marriages. Every month when you're not watching, I stand out in front of the county building not far from here with a sign in my hand demanding marital justice for gay, lesbian, and bisexual folk. Most of the time, I'm there with one or two other colleagues, never more than three. Barely anyone notices. They go in and out, and in our Midwest way, we smile. "Have a nice day." "You too." No one really ever asks. By now, they know what we're there for. And I do this not because I think it's necessary to bring in gay marriage to Michigan. That's going to happen. There's no question. That boat has sailed. It's on its way. I do it to say, watch out. It's coming. And with the fond hope that we will not be the 51st state or entity to make it possible. I came to this position that it's the right thing to do, not because it's fair and right and just, which it is, but I'll let the people in California work that out. I came to this position because while I have seen hundreds of straight people get married through deceit, exploitation, cheapness, and abuse, who have seen it twisted and tormented into all shapes but love, and still get legally married, the gay couples that have come to me rose up over mountains of oppression, defied parents, friends, relatives, and society to claim the thing that straight people were throwing away like a cheap novel. I have never seen people more committed to marriage than the people who can't have it. Secretly, over the years, they've been married, sometimes in their backyard, sometimes at an ocean. Sometimes they even do it dangerously. Did you read this week that a gay wedding in Uganda was nearly stoned by the people who called them unnatural? You'd say, boy, that was stupid. No, it wasn't. Love must speak. What was unnatural was stoning people. What a shame that we don't have that kind of courage ourselves. You know, people say that gay marriage is a threat to straight marriage. I've never gotten the threat. There's a comedian who, was it a comedian? No, there was a speaker here last year who said that presumes that one couple, one man's talking to his fiancée and said, "Oh, by the way, they just legalized gay marriage. Goodbye." No. Who knew? You know, as though somehow if we could all marry men, we would, right? I'm not so sure that's going to happen, but there is a threat. There is a very real threat. There's a very real threat that gay marriage poses, and it's the threat that no one has talked about. The threat is that if they do it, we'll have to mean it. Because when they can get married, there's no getting away with straight people doing it on the cheap anymore. Because if they do it because they mean it, what's our excuse for doing it and not meaning it? That's the threat. They're holding us to account. They're demanding that we take it as seriously as they do, and we don't want that to happen, do we? You know something? In the end, if we're serious about marriage, it's gay marriage that will save us all. Because they're the ones who are telling us what true love is all about. Have a happy Valentine's Day.